Somebody once said, if you've got two quarterbacks, you got none. Well, we understand what they mean. You can't get two on the field, but you need more than one on the roster. So the two that Nebraska gets here in the last couple weeks is definitely a good thing. We have introduced everyone to Casey Thompson. Of course, we will talk more Nebraska quarterback acquisitions and junior college players coming in, two of the top in the nation, and more right here at Huskers Live for the next hour with all of you. Please leave those comments and questions. We got Greg Peterson on the line, of course. He makes it all happen from Husker Online. Greg, how's it going?
What's going on, Mark Rogers?
I'm doing well.
Husker
I'm good.
Nation. Yes.
I'm cold, but I'm doing fine.
Well, probably don't want to know that it was 61 degrees in Lincoln, Nebraska.
61. It seems like every time I talk to you, it's fluctuating between like 10 and 60.
Yeah, but it's
nothing in between.
Yeah, no. It's tomorrow. It's going to be. Yeah, you're going to have to be bundled up. That's Nebraska weather for you, and kind of funny that the visit weekend we had, it was colder than crazy here, and still the Huskers come out on top, impressing visitors 2 weeks in a row. I mean, I'll throw Casey Thompson into that. He was here, and I think the wind chill was like -6 or whatever when he was here. Nebraska. Welcome to Nebraska. It might be -6 one day and 61 the next day. That's how we work around here.
Well, that's a bit much. We're pretty much in the deep freeze here in Connecticut. Although I got to say, based on what I've heard and seen from other parts in the country, we're doing all right. The big, massive snowstorm that made its way on through, that dumped about 5 or 6 inches for us. So that's just a typical snowfall. So no big deal there. I know a lot of people out there took the brunt of it. So hopefully everybody's safe and everybody's secure out there watching.
Absolutely.
All right. I guess we'll dive right in with our quarterback acquisition that we've talked about for the last few weeks, because it seemed like everybody was pretty set in knowing that it was not the best kept secret that Chubba Purdy, Florida State quarterback, was headed to Lincoln, and now it's official.
Yeah, and again, kind of like Casey Thompson, that late last week, Chubba Purdy's name came up on the student directory as well, which doesn't mean one way or the other that he's actually enrolled in the school or not, but that means that there's something in the works. And sure enough, over the weekend, he came and had his official visit, and it was down between Oklahoma and Nebraska, because he visited Oklahoma last week, and the relationship that he has with Mark Whipple, Nebraska's new offensive coordinator, really came through, and you get the best case scenario, like we've been talking about since the season ended. That Nebraska, and that we know when we found out that Adrian Martinez was leaving, and since then ended up at Kansas State. But best case scenario is Nebraska has taken 2 transfer portal quarterbacks, and they got them. And I think they scored big time when you got a Casey Thompson come in. That he's got 2 years, but I think everybody knows it's 1 year, and he's going to the NFL. He's going to be 24 years old, by gosh, during the season this year. So I don't think anybody would expect him to come back another year as a 25-year-old if he's really interested in the NFL. But which leads me to Chubba Purdy, the Florida State transfer that had that relationship with Mark Whipple, and I think it came down to, obviously it was between Oklahoma and Nebraska. I think Chubba, and this is just me assuming things, that I think he looked at the situation at Oklahoma when they have a top-notch guy coming in for a couple of years, and you're Chubba Purdy and you got 4 years of eligibility. Do you want to sit behind a guy for 2 years or sit behind a guy for 1 year and still be able to compete? How crazy a season goes, that you might need 3 quarterbacks or 4. You never know how it goes. But I think that the uncertainty too with Oklahoma, with the new staff coming in as well. And like I mentioned, previous connection with Mark Whipple, who, was recruiting him to Pitt. And with Mark Whipple's track record of developing quarterbacks for the next level, I think, made all the difference in the world. And so many times that we've talked about over, I don't know, where are we, 50, 52 shows in or whatever. But when you get somebody here to visit on campus here in Lincoln, the odds of you landing that guy just skyrocketed. And so that finally happened. And now Nebraska all of a sudden has a loaded quarterback room. You're basically bringing in 2 transfer portal quarterbacks on scholarship, a freshman on scholarship, and you still have Logan Smothers. You still have Heinrich Harburg. And we talked a little bit about last week. You got Mikey Pauley, a guy that could be in the mix as well, who's a scholarship baseball player coming here this summer. So, Nebraska's quarterback room has certainly taken a big step up, and a lot of competition there. And I'm telling you right now, the spring game slated, April 6th, I think it is. But and I think tickets went on sale today. But I got to figure that's going to be a sellout for the spring game. If not a sellout, real close. Because I think all eyes are going to be on. They're so excited to see what you got to play with at the quarterback position and see what these guys can do on the field. And they should all be available. Besides, we don't really know the status of Richard Torres, if he'll be healthy enough to play or not. Or Mikey Pauley obviously won't be here until the summer. But, you still have, those 2 big horses that you brought in that everybody's going to want to see come here start of April.
Toby's got a helmet coming our way. We appreciate that, Toby. It'll be right here, right over my shoulder.
Front
as
center.
soon as you get it here. Bam. All right. When it comes to these quarterbacks, so obviously, Scott Frost and the coaching staff, they can read a stat sheet, they can see a scouting report, and more than anything, they can watch game tape. Every game's on tape. Boom. They can watch these guys play. They know that Casey Thompson's supposed to be the starter. They know that he's supposed to be the better quarterback, has been the better quarterback. But I got to think that Scott Frost is still, since neither one of them has done it at Nebraska, is going to say this is an open quarterback competition. Whoever wins the job wins the job. But he's going to go into it anticipating that Casey Thompson's going to win the job.
Yeah, and that's why you bring a guy like that in. And like I just mentioned, he's an old man already.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
What happened there that I thought he was a younger player than that.
No. I mean, he's old. He's put his time in there at Texas behind Sam Ehlinger for several years. And, this was his first year to shine. And, I mean, you got to add, you add a COVID year onto that and a red shirt and everything. And, he's been around for a while. And this is his chance to, this is his year to prove that he can play in the NFL. And I think he's going to go all into it that way. And, this is his last year in college football, if you ask me. Seriously, I don't think he's going to come back for a second year, no matter what, because of life reasons. And that's why you bring in a Chubba Purdy, a guy that's got 4 years, that you can develop a little bit. I can't wait to, I've not watched Chubba Purdy at all. Don't really know what he's good at, but I can't wait to see him here in about 6 weeks before spring ball starts, and see what he looks like, and then gauge that again like a year from now under a year of tutelage with Mark Whipple. And I mean, I I just love what's going on right now, and you can just make that spill over. If we want to make a smooth transition, spill over into what Nebraska has been doing here in the transfer portal. Um, you've got to give Scott Frost so much credit for what he's done with adding firepower in the coaching ranks. Replacing those positions on his coaching staff, and then with the firepower that they've been adding through the transfer portal, that we so many people have been so critical about the recruiting ranking that they have, from the first signing day and stuff. But if you meld those two together, I've seen some people out there saying that Nebraska's like a top 10, top 15 recruiting class overall when you mesh those two together with what they've done. And that's a credit to Scott Frost and a dedication to moving forward and bringing in as much talent as you possibly can, to make all these, I don't know if you want to say dreams come true, but all the expectations start to come together a little bit, and you see a fan base that a 5-year drought without being bowl eligible, and meaning that you don't even have a 500 record, but you still have the support that you have, and the expectations, and just the enthusiasm right now that's going on with what is going on in the transfer portal, and what Scott Frost has added to the overall look of this football team. It's going to be really, really cool to watch once we see them out there on the field here, come here into February, 1st of March.
So if you combine a recruiting class that is, I haven't looked at the rankings here recently, but around 50 or 55 in the country, something like that, with the transfers that have come in, somebody is estimating that this is a top 10 recruiting class. I think that's a pretty
and that's something
lively stretch.
I just heard that mentioned. I don't have any solid evidence to back that up, but it was a conversation that I did hear on the radio, and I trust those people that were saying that, but I can't back that up. But I mean, in my opinion, I think you'd have to throw that number around 20 to 25. It being realistic, in my opinion, with what they've added. But there is no doubt that they've added, it influxed the talent level at several key positions, and they're not done yet. That's the nice thing about it, is that with the scholarship limited 85, you got to be very flexible with that, and bring in a few more guys, because there's so much attrition that's going to happen. You and I talked before we went on the air that Nebraska lost Will Honus to the transfer portal today. He's a seventh year guy, but losing a guy, that's the first transfer portal loss they've had since mid-December. So the numbers that they have going on here with the attrition rate to what they've been adding is pretty darn good, and they're bringing in experienced guys that are going to come in and compete right away. You just saw today, they added another guy today. Javier Morton. He's a corner. He's a JUCO guy, but he was originally an Alabama commit coming out, and boom, they're overhauling, kind of sneaky, silently, really overhauling the defensive secondary with what they've added through the transfer portal, and with the high school class coming in, and they're still dialed in with another one that they might get. So I kind of switched over to the different side of the ball. But, we hadn't even, last week when we talked, Nebraska had landed DeAndre Jackson from Texas A&M in the transfer portal, and everything was all hunky dory there. Then he's here in town, and it ends up that he finds out that he academically wasn't eligible to enroll in Nebraska right now. And like I said earlier, classes just started here officially today for the spring semester. But all of a sudden it was like, oh, he's not coming here. But no, he was still here in town. He was with his parents, and unfortunately, he won't be here for this semester. He'll have to go back to College Station and finish up one class to make himself eligible, and he'll be here in the summer. So they still hold on to him. And what makes that whole thing, I don't know, easier to digest? I'm not sure, but during that same time, during this weekend, because I didn't mention that the dead period had opened up, so this was the first of recruiting weekend that you could host official visitors, and it was a huge recruiting weekend for Nebraska, and they've been reaping the rewards. But so I'm getting to Anthony Grant, who was here, who didn't have an offer at the time when he scheduled this visit, just because of DeAndre being committed here and stuff. But he was still coming here on a visit, had a great visit, pulled the trigger. And, Anthony Grant, we're talking about the number one JUCO player in the country at running back. And he's a guy that looks a lot like Dedrick Mills, who we know that was pretty good here after coming out of the JUCO ranks. So, yeah, look at the firepower they're adding on there. That's skill positions over skill position guys that you're adding to the mix, and what they've added with receiver from the transfer portal and in recruiting, and then add on 3 redshirt receivers that you didn't get to see play this year. I'm really starting to like. I mean, you got loaded rooms up and down there on your skill positions at quarterback, at running back, and wide receiver. It's really cool to kind of see, and I don't know, people that weren't expecting Nebraska to make a splash like this, then shame on you, because it looks to me like they know what they're doing.
So just to get everyone caught up on all the news here, as Greg has just outlined everything across the board, but Nebraska picks up here in the past few days, number one JUCO running back Anthony Grant, JUCO defensive back Javier Morton. We discussed, of course, Chubba Purdy, who's coming off a season which he only threw 5 passes, but the year before he had 1 start for Florida State and put up a 27 for 53 with a couple touchdown passes in that. And of course, Casey Thompson led the Big 12 in touchdown passes last year. He should be the starter, but I got to think that at least on the surface, it's an open competition. Mentioned Will Honus, 7th season is going to be played somewhere else. He had 57 tackles the year before last, meaning in 2020, 67 the year before that. Unfortunately, tore up his knee at the end of spring workouts here in 2021 and couldn't play this past football season with the Huskers.
Second ACL for him.
The second time he's torn an ACL.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
And now we also have, before we move on to the other personnel news on the coaching staff, what do you got? What do you think is going through Logan Smothers' mind? So he goes from a position where he could battle for the starting spot, and he still can technically battle for the starting spot, but it's not looking so good.
Yeah, and I haven't talked to Logan, and I know Logan pretty well. I know his dad pretty well, and both very big Husker fans, always have been. But I've got to think that the writing's on the wall, and I think Logan's probably looking elsewhere. But he's not scared to compete. That's one thing for sure about him. And like I said, he loves this program. He loves Coach Frost. He lost his quarterback coach, the guy that recruited him, but he's still willing to stay here as it is. But I think that he's probably gonna. I don't know. He's still enrolled. He's in class today. But I got to think that maybe after spring ball, after they kind of things shake out during spring ball, and he kind of sees where he is on the totem pole. I think probably that he would decide to test the waters elsewhere. But that's just me. Just being realistic of what's going on right now, and kind of having a new offensive coordinator that has a little bit different philosophy than that you might have been brought in here under. But like I said, he's not scared to compete, and I fully expect him to do that during spring ball and kind of see where it lies after that.
I'll say this, that I saw Chubba Purdy play just a little bit. He hasn't played much for anybody to see him play.
Logan's played more. Logan's played more Division I.
Yeah. So obviously he started that Iowa game last year and ran it 24 times, hit 23 out of 33. And I watched that game, and sure, he made a bad mistake near the end of the game, but considering he's got a ton of inexperience, there's a lack of experience there. Don't assume. I don't think fans should be assuming because there are transfers in that they're automatically better players and are going to take these guys' spots. Because based on what I've seen of Logan Smothers and Chubba Purdy, Logan Smothers should be competing for a strong position as the backup.
Yeah, and I failed to mention too that, and because I saw Star Trek Asylum's comment there that, yeah, you know what, Nebraska does not want to lose Logan Smothers, and I guarantee you that there's going to be ways that they're going to try to get him involved in the game, even if he's not the starting quarterback. I'm talking about wildcat situations, just kind of like he alluded to with Luke McCaffrey. There's ways that you can include those guys in the game and be positive contributors, even if they're not the so-called starting quarterback. And I think all those different combinations and different weapons that you have at your disposal makes you just that much more of a different team, to try to game plan against when you're playing against Nebraska.
So we don't do a whole lot of promotion here on our Nebraska show, but we're going to take just 10 seconds out of our content here to remind you of a few things. We're here every week. We got Greg here for 52 consecutive weeks. He does an excellent job there at Husker Online. You can catch his videos right here on YouTube on Husker Online. And also, of course, he works for Rivals Husker Online on the main site there. But catch his videos right here on YouTube at Husker Online. Make sure you drive up those views and subscribe over there on Husker Online right here on YouTube. Also, again, 52 consecutive weeks. The Super Chat's available to contribute to the show. And also, if you want to bypass YouTube in regards to your financial contribution, you can hit me up at Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. Just search Mark Rogers TV and just put a note there if you wanted to go directly to the Nebraska show so I know where the contribution is going. And also consider that we would love to have a sponsor here at our Nebraska channel and specifically for this show. So hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail. Basically, anything you can hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail for any kind of requests, recommendations, but specifically if you own a business and we can let you know how many ways you can benefit from sponsoring us here and what we can do for you. So please hit me up at MarkRogersTV at Gmail if you would like to sponsor or know of anyone who could possibly sponsor us. So Jay Van Crump is just yelling at us to say, hey, have Greg answer the lost question, probably the last question. Okay. With all the defensive back transfers and recruits coming in, what happened to Ohio State transfer Tyreke Johnson? I think we talked about this just a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we did. It's a mystery, really. he kind of disappeared. I mean, we were excited to see him this time a year ago. It was like, oh, wow, we got this guy coming in from Ohio State, high 4-star kid. Didn't get much run at Ohio State and decided to move on. He showed up here and he looked the part. Might not have put the effort in that you might have wanted to see, but as the year went on, people kind of quit asking about him. I mean, if you did ask Travis Fisher about him, he'd always say that he's competing and he looks good out there, but he never did get a chance to crack the lineup much. But I suspect, like just about like most of these position groups, that all these spots are wide open right now, and he's got his chance right now to prove himself starting here in about 6 weeks when spring practice starts. And if he wants to secure himself a starting spot, this is the time to do it. So, hopefully we do see something out of him coming up this season. Other than that, it's kind of a mystery. I don't know. I guess the easy answer is that there's more talented people in front of him. I mean, obviously Cam Taylor-Britt, it's pretty hard to take his job away. So, and then there was just some younger guys that outperformed him apparently in practice. But we'll see what happens this year. Hopefully that he can see some snaps this year.
So Brian Applewhite comes in to coach up those running backs. We've been talking about for a long, long time that a running backs coach is needed, especially with a lot of young, inexperienced players at that position.
Yeah, and I really like this hire. And it's nothing new. I mean, we knew he was one of the top 2 candidates, and he comes in. He's got 20 years plus experience coaching at the college level, and last couple of years at TCU, and he's been very successful over his career at developing running back talent. And I think it's definitely an upgrade. And I'm not trying to say anything bad about former running backs coach Ryan Held, but I think you bring in a guy with more experience coaching at a higher level, and a guy that has connections. So I think it's a home run hire. And I think the nice thing about it is that you bring in a guy like that was already dialed in, recruiting, and had some guys pretty close to committing to TCU that, maybe Nebraska pulls off here down the line. You just, it's kind of cool that when you add him into the mix with Mickey Joseph and Bill Bush, I think you have completely upgraded. Well, and Mark Whipple, but you have completely upgraded your recruiting prowess over the former staff that you had, and not dissing those guys at all. But you've already seen what Mickey Joseph, the impact that he has had in the short time here, bringing in the likes of a Trey Palmer and it's kind of funny that, even Trevante Candidate still has Nebraska on his list, even though it's pretty much a long shot that he would end up here. But, Nebraska's on his top 8 list, the top running back prospect out there available in the country. And you just see, Mark Whipple just brought in two high-level quarterbacks in the transfer portal. And I think Coach Applewhite adds another dynamic in there that, a lot of other kids are going to start considering Nebraska when they might not have in the past. But, I think it's a home run across the board what Scott Frost has added. And, you got to throw Dylan Raiola in there too, or Dominic Raiola, in there as well. So, your 4 new coaches across the board have already paid off dividends. Even though Nebraska did lose over the weekend a coveted offensive line target that they were looking at, but decided to go elsewhere. But Coach Rayola, I'm sure, has some plan Bs in line. And right now, at this point with Nebraska's numbers and stuff, I still look at probably to add 2 or 3 more transfer portal guys here, or high school recruits here before the second signing day comes up. And I think they're looking heavily at some big bodies, and obviously an offensive lineman and maybe 2 defensive linemen to fill those holes. And like I said earlier, you can't ever take too many. Right now, you're not thinking about numbers wise, because we've seen what the transfer portal does. Right now you kind of want to be over that 85 scholarship limit going into spring and see how things evaluate. And you have numbers too with guys that are on 1-year scholarships that you can obviously not have them on scholarship and use that somewhere else. So the numbers game, there's so many things that go into it. And, basically to sum it all up is I really like what they've added. It's going to be so fun to see when spring ball starts up here.
Somebody had commented here, our guy James Williams. Basically, he's looking for an explosive player on defense. JoJo Doman, he went back to Randy Gregory, who we saw on the field for the Cowboys. Unfortunately, made a holding penalty that I don't want to say cost him the game, but they couldn't get the ball back until there was about 30 seconds left because of it. But anyway, we know how good he was and still is. But that kind of game changer guy that's going to come off the edge, strip sacks, create turnovers, bad passes in the air, do all that kind of crazy stuff.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, who doesn't need that? Everybody in the country is looking for that, and arguably Nebraska has not had that pass rushing phenom since Randy Gregory went to the NFL and joined the Cowboys. And like I was trying to mention there, that it is a free agent this year, so we'll see if the Cowboys can afford to re-sign him or not. But yeah, that position right there is the one that you're always looking for, and obviously that's always going to be high on your list. And if you look at this roster right now, in my opinion, and if I want to put a candidate out there that can be that kind of a game-changing guy, it's my guy that I've stuck with since I first started watching him play in high school, and that's Garrett Nelson. This guy's got the biggest football motor I've ever seen in my life, and it doesn't stop. And he runs, I don't know what octane he's running on, but it's pretty high up there. And, if you have the right guys surrounding him, I think Garrett could be that breakout guy and really put up some mind-boggling numbers if he's put in the right position.
I made the comment a few minutes ago that the Super Chat's available. Then Moonbot said that it's not up.
Uh-oh.
So I'm looking at the feed right now on my laptop, and if you go to the
I love that.
if you go to the live chat where you put in a comment,
great story too to tell you.
Oh boy,
go ahead, keep going.
Where you put the comment in, right below it, there's an emoji with a smiley face, and there's a $sign right there. That's what you click on for a super chat right there. All right, story time with Greg. Everybody listen up, settle in. Here we go.
Well, it's not that big, but it's just funny. Because I see Moonbot's comment there that Held was a boob. I was out running. It was during COVID 2 years ago. I was on the bike path, the jogging path, whatever, in my neighborhood. I was cruising along, and I see a guy coming at me. I'm like, damn, that looks like Coach Held. And sure, he's got his headphones on and he's in his groove, and I'm like, that is Coach Held. And, he didn't even look up. He hadn't even noticed that it was me, and so I'm coming up on him. I'm like, I'm going to do it. So I broke down into a stance in a tackle position. I was going to tackle him. Right as he comes up, then I scared the hell out of him. I'm like, how's it going, coach? He's like, damn it, what are you doing? It was hilarious. It really was.
That's great.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal. Good stuff. Greg, scaring people out there.
Yeah.
Got to.
And you know what? As soon as when I did recognize it was him, I really did want to tackle him. I don't know why, but I did. I guess that's the old linebacker coming out in me, right?
Hey, if you get that opportunity, you only get those kind of chances once in a while to.
But it was right in the outbreak of COVID too. It was like when you could only be outside exercising. That was the only you're only allowed to be out there doing that. So.
All right, Uncle Rico, we see you. We'll get to it in just a second. Levi wants a rundown of the depth at tight end and D end.
What, recruiting wise or the depth? Okay, yeah. Depth right now at tight end is pretty good. You're bringing back Travis Vokalek for another year, who was hurt a lot of the time, but he'll take over the reins as Austin Allen's role that was going on last year. That we all know that he's going to be his name's going to be called in the NFL draft. And then you have the biggest recruit they had in last year's recruiting class, Thomas Fidone, who was injured all year too, coming out fresh. So yeah, you got those two guys to start with, and then you got the other guys that you brought in last year. You brought in 3 tight ends in last year's class, so you've got a lot of young depth in there. You're bringing in another one in Chase Androff this year, so you've got several bodies to work with, and I forgot to mention Chris Hickman, who's been around for quite a while as well, and I expect him to get some more playing time. A guy that's he's contributed pretty well when he's got his chance. So the depth there at the tight end spot is pretty solid, and that's kind of what we talked about. Nebraska not missing out on 2 of those top tight ends coming out of the Omaha area this year, out of Bellevue West, but it wasn't much of a concern because Nebraska's been recruiting that position really good. And they've already got their tight end for the 2023 class in Ben Brammer, who's also very talented. So, yeah, tight end, I really like what they have coming back. Obviously, you're going to miss Austin Allen, which, his 6'9" frame was pretty nice to have as a security blanket for Adrian Martinez last year. But plenty of firepower to replace Austin. And then at the defensive end spot, like I was saying, Garrett Nelson's technically an outside linebacker, but I think, they're going to find a way to have him lined up and be their premier pass rusher next year. And then after that, though, you've got guys that haven't had a lot of chances that have been around for a while. Guys like Tate Wildeman, stuff like that are chomping at the bit, and it's their time to shine. So I'm looking forward to seeing that open competition when spring ball starts here, and we'll kind of we'll see what guys look like there, and kind of come up with a depth chart at that position once we see kind of what guys look like here after winter conditioning is all over with.
Uncle Rico is my guy. Uncle Rico, he's all over the channels. He's all over whatever channels we've got. We've got 25 team channels. Uncle Rico shows up for all these live streams. I couldn't even tell you. Uncle Rico probably showed up about 3 months ago, and I hope I'm not shortchanging you, Uncle Rico. I don't know exactly when it was, but it's been fairly recently, but he's here all the time. I don't even know who he roots for.
Does he drive around in an RV and throws a football at the video camera?
I don't know what his deal is, but Uncle Rico is a good guy. He supports all the time. And so he's testing the super chat. So it's working. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
All right.
Nice job, Uncle Rico. Appreciate that.
Oh, boy.
All right. Who else is here? Anything else you guys have for us? Appreciate all the nice comments. People love the show. Thank you so much for that.
Nice shout out there. He is everywhere. He
Yeah,
is Uncle
like
Rico.
Johnny Cash.
It
I've been everywhere.
really is the real Uncle Rico.
Joshua, what about Brewington? Who's that? Brewington.
He's another tight end, Chancellor Brewington.
Oh.
He made some plays last year. He was a wide receiver that they converted over a tight end last season because they needed some help with the numbers there because after Thomas Fidone went down and he had some moments this past season and obviously his name is right up in there and shame on me I forgot to mention his name but he and he's a guy that nobody even knew who he was on the team and stuff, and all of a sudden he's doing post-game press conferences all year. So obviously a guy that has potential.
Chance Brewington, 3 catches last year. Scored a touchdown.
He did score a touchdown.
Scored a touchdown.
It's more than I can say for my career.
Well, let's pin. I'm curious.
By the way, I still have all 4 years of eligibility left.
You got them all.
If anybody's looking, let me know.
Well, you get about 7 to play these days, but
yeah, really.
caught a touchdown against Fordham. That was going to be my guess, the Fordham game.
All right, go back to the old Fordham game, huh? The glory days of last year.
Pretty much.
That was a fun game to be at, I'll tell you that.
All right.
Oh, you know what? We haven't even, it's kind of funny that you probably wouldn't know this, and
yes,
unless you're a Husker fan that is kind of in the system here. Athletic director Trev Alberts of the university sent out a Memorial Stadium survey to everybody, and it was kind of funny. I just got mine yesterday, and this is went out. I think last Thursday it started going out, and I think it's funny that I got one because I'm not a season ticket holder. I don't have to pay to go into the game. I don't pay to park. I'm working on that day, so my opinion doesn't count in it. But it was pretty cool that they sent out because they really are dedicated. I mean, not just on the field like we've been talking about with the talent and stuff they've added, but they're really Trev Alberts is on. He's on the front lines and he wants to improve the fan experience at Memorial Stadium. And quite frankly, it's lacking. I mean, when I first started, when I was a little kid back in the 70s, the first time I went, not a lot has changed inside Memorial Stadium since then. They've made additions here and there, but the overall fan experience kind of sucks, if you ask me. You're like cattle stuck in on bench seating. And they had this big push a few years back when they added more seating. They added an upper deck to get the numbers up over 90,000. I don't think you need that anymore. I think eliminate a lot of that. And for God's sakes, give everybody chair back seating. Because that's what the fan expects these days. You cannot go and be expected to go either bring your own stadium seat cushion or buy one when you're there, rent one, and still be just packed in like sardines, shoulder to shoulder, and just uncomfortable. And the bathrooms need to be updated. I mean, there's so many things, and they're looking at doing the whole overhaul, which you can easily do, and many stadiums have already done, and make it more of that NFL model, and add some club seating, field level club seating, stuff like that. Make everything modernized. And I mean, for God's sakes, you still like when you go into the men's bathroom, you're using a steel trough urinal, like has always been there since I've been alive. It's just bizarre in some aspects, and it really needs to be updated. Which other parts of the stadium have been updated, and which are nice, and with the suites and everything. But your average fan can't afford to be in a suite or in club level or what have you. And then the biggest thing is alcohol sales. I mean, everybody knows how much alcohol sales adds to your profit margin and everything. And quite frankly, right, even though Nebraska is a very conservative, probably the most conservative state out there, they're starting to realize now that, I mean, right down the street, right down the road in Omaha, they at Creighton basketball games they sell alcohol. So you can't tell me that Lincoln can't do the same thing. It just has to be approved, and then all of a sudden you add that aspect onto it, and then you're not. I don't think you're out there searching to get fans into the stadium, and having to bail out your sellout streak by having big companies buy off all those extra tickets and just give them away basically to keep that sellout streak alive, which we've been seeing. So yeah, eliminate. I don't know how many thousand seats you need to eliminate, but make it a pleasant experience. Most of everything else is pretty darn good, and like we mentioned earlier, that you don't have a team that can't even get 500 for 5 years and still have the fan support come out that they do have. It's pretty incredible, and I don't think there's any other school in the country that could claim that. And obviously we've seen this all ties into what they've done to improve the product on the field and the fan experience on game day, and it's only going to get better and better because I think you have the right people installed and that know what they're doing, compared to days or years in the past when you had athletic directors that had a different agenda than actually somebody that played here and is passionate about it and knows what it means to the fan base.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible when you consider the number of people that continue to show up versus what the product has been on the field for the last 5 or 6 years in particular. And even before that, it was certainly a downgrade from what was expected and what was on the field for so many decades, which was the elite, one of the top 2 or 3 programs in the country for decades and decades and decades. But yeah, the fans continue to show up and pack the place, and should be given some experience that's on par with what you find elsewhere in the country.
Well, especially this day and age when how many people would rather stay home and watch it on TV in the comfort of their own house, and they can watch several games at the same time, and you don't have to deal with fighting the crowd and parking and all that. You've got to make the fan experience something worthwhile and coming to see, especially when you have a subpar product out on the field.
Star Trek Elysium, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for the contribution. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely.
And we've got Moonbot's here. And of course, he's going to say something about the Yantee. The Yantee will rise.
You know what? I love it. Moonbot knows. I mean, he knows what I think about Jacquez Yant, and yeah, I mean, you're looking at a position group that's wide open. I mean, you do have Ramir Johnson and Gabe Urban coming back, and Gabe Urban coming off of injury, but and Marquis Stepp. But you added some pieces to that puzzle, and Jacquez Yant right there has every chance in the world to going into spring ball to grab that job. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if he comes out of spring ball as that lead dog in the room.
Star Trek coming back with Anthony Grant and Trey Palmer. I guess he wants us to talk about him.
Well,
which we have, and you have, I should say. And of course, we talked about Trey Palmer when he made his transfer last week.
Yeah, and adding a guy like Trey Palmer with his credentials coming out of high school as the number 2 player in the country overall, according to Rivals, and has been at LSU and has played behind I don't know how many NFL wide receivers can we count that he's been behind in his time in Baton Rouge, but he has proven that he's an elite punt returner and kick returning specialist. And adding a guy like that, athletic freak like that, is only going to pay dividends. And he was a Mickey Joseph guy. Mickey Joseph recruited him originally to LSU. And obviously they have a pretty special bond where he would uproot himself. And, well, he was already in the transfer portal, but to decide, and it's kind of a culture shock. I mean, I've been to Baton Rouge. I've been to New Orleans many, many, many times. I mean, I lived in the South for 10 plus years. I know what it's like, the difference between living in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Lincoln, Nebraska. It's a different animal. But if you believe in your coach, you believe in what they're telling you, then it makes it, pretty much of a no-brainer, especially like I mentioned earlier. If you get somebody to come here and visit, they're always shocked because it's not what they expected. Most people come here, they have no idea where Nebraska even is, and they think it's just a big cornfield from what they've heard. And when they get here, they're generally shocked and surprised in a good way. And that just had part of it. And like we mentioned earlier about Anthony Grant, I mean, that's a home run. That's a guy, like I said earlier, that didn't even have an offer last Thursday. Did not have an offer, but was coming here to visit. And now he's on board, and he's a kid that he had, 1,800, I think 1,700 yards last year for New Mexico military. And like 18 touchdowns, something like that. And ran wild and, led his team to a national title game over Iowa Western. And he's, like I said earlier, he reminds me a lot of Dedrick Mills. And heck, I mean, maybe a Mike Rozier type of guy. Same kind of build, everything like that. You don't know until they get here. But it's all speculation right now. But like I said earlier, I love the addition of both of these guys. Only going to make Nebraska better.
Alan's always here making Nebraska better and our show better by telling everybody to hit the like button and contributing. So, Alan, we know you. We see you there. We appreciate it so much. Thank you for that. And Levi.
Has Alan been in all 52 weeks? I think
I would not bet against it.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too. And if he missed one or two, he's made up for it.
Yeah, it's okay.
Who knows who was here the first show?
Yeah.
We were just getting started. People didn't know where to find us.
Oh, he says no. He said no.
No, didn't make the first one. He was here soon. It didn't take him long.
Yeah.
Levi, appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for your contribution, Levi. Shout out to Voice of College Football and GBR. Thank you so much for that.
That means Go Big Red for those of you that are wondering.
Oh, yeah. That's an old one. That goes way back. I don't know when that started.
I don't either.
Look that up.
Yeah. I'm not sure either, but it has caught on social media. I mean, it started when social media did, I'm sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
GBR?
Well,
really?
Just the abbreviation. I mean, everybody said Go Big Red for forever, but this is that abbreviation that, hashtag GBR is what I'm talking about. So, for those of us old people that had to transition into social media and stuff,
Well, I'm trying to find it here, and you know what I'm coming up with, GBR, Great Britain. So we'll
Exactly.
have
Yeah, it
we'll have to
is.
keep
Well,
digging.
what are you looking at, the Olympics standings or what there?
No, I'm Googling it. And Nolan, thank you so much for that. Appreciate your contribution. Thank you so much for being here, Nolan. All right. Anything else we need to clean up or get to
Yeah,
here?
David was just asking if we're going to get a DT in the transfer portal, and yeah, that's like I mentioned a little bit earlier that yeah, there's two of them right now that they're really they're after, and we'll kind of see how things play out. But I fully expect them to get at least one defensive tackle and maybe two here before things are said and done.
Good stuff. All right, folks. We have certainly taken care of business, I think, with a lot of personnel changes, a lot of coaching changes. And keep in mind that if you had questions or comments, number one, Greg handled most of them. I see a lot of players' names being mentioned that he covered. So, of course, not everybody was here right out of the gate. So we usually have like 10 people here after 5 or 10 minutes and not the 100 plus that we've got now. So just wait for the video to post, watch the whole video, and then you're going to get your questions answered. Number one. Number two, keep in mind it's a long, long off season. So we're here every week talking Nebraska football, and we will get to all the comments and the questions throughout the off season.
And we also welcome all those fans like Cheryl, that's an Ohio State fan. Obviously, we still
Cheryl here.
Yeah, we like having her in, and
yes, there she is.
And I know Danny is just saying, why is everybody okay with the offensive line? I don't think anybody's okay with the offensive line. That's why they've been bringing in some guys, and there's a lot of competition there that's going to go on, and that's another position group we're gonna know a lot more about when spring ball starts and stuff. But you got to like a lot of the young talent that they have on here, and a guy that I've always been high on since last year's a true freshman coming in that I think is going to have a hell of a career here in Lincoln is Henry Lutovsky. Watch out for him. I think Henry, with what he did last year in his redshirt season, I think he's going to be a guy that going to play a lot of games here in Lincoln. So, I like what they have with their young guys, and they brought in some older guys out of the transfer portal that are going to help, and that's going to be a really cool competition. Just like what we talked about. I mean, obviously, all eyes are going to be on that quarterback competition, and then you're going to look at the running back room and the additions at wide receiver, but offensive line. Obviously, we know that to win games, especially in the Big Ten, you got to win the trenches. You got to win the battle in the trenches, and Nebraska's struggled doing that, quite frankly. I think since ever since they joined the Big Ten, you just haven't seen that offensive line play that Nebraska fans are accustomed to seeing.
If any of you folks out there belong to a Nebraska Facebook group or a group on any social media platform, that's the only one that I know that exists, but I'm sure there's zillions out there. So Facebook or otherwise, let people know that we're here every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central, where the time zone's most important there in Lincoln at the heart of Husker territory, 6 Central every Tuesday. So bring some folks in, or you can just drop these links right in your Facebook group feed. All right, man.
I like how everybody's. Yeah, I just like how everybody's defending Nebraska and wanting to see Ohio State in the Big Ten title game. So, giving Cheryl a little bit back there.
Well, did you see Cheryl's comment? She brought up Nebraska's record against Ohio State.
Yeah, obviously I think we all know that, and she's totally right for saying that. So
yes, well, they've been playing recently. Well, I'll come to Nebraska's defense. They obviously weren't facing each other back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. So.
But what a great story that would be to see Nebraska play Ohio State in Indianapolis next year. That would be kind of cool. And hey, I never ever pass up a trip to Indy. I always have a good time when I'm there. So looking forward.
If that happens, maybe I'll meet you there.
Oh, it's a deal. That is a deal.
I tell you, the
You
way
sure,
this
you sure
Western
you don't want
Division.
me? You sure you don't want me to take you to Dublin with me? Because we
Ooh.
can arrange that as well.
Oh, that's right. That's a week 0 deal.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. That's right. Hopefully that comes together this year.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, obviously, we're all at the mercy of the Omicron and the coronavirus, and yeah, it's we don't know. We just don't know. But I mean, it's scheduled to go on as we speak right now, so it's all planned for. And yeah, we're signed, sealed, and delivered. We have we have our tickets and we have our rooms and everything. So and you know when you're talking about that too, and add that into Nebraska, Husker Nation of missing bowl games for 5 years. You know, there's Husker fans chomping at the bit to they've been saving up their money and they want to go see Nebraska play somewhere in a cool setting other than Big Ten venues or Lincoln. So that's a big deal. That's a really big deal, and I know that the folks there at Aer Lingus and those guys that are putting it on. It's a big deal to them too, and they feel really bad about not having that game last year with Nebraska and Illinois, and they are set to put on a show up there and welcome Husker Nation with arms wide open. I mean, they already are, so it's pretty cool.
Folks, we appreciate all of you, whether you root for Nebraska or not, but especially you Husker fans. We need you here, so we appreciate it every Tuesday night, 6 Eastern. We thank you so much for the kind words and the contributions and everything tonight and the great questions coming in. So check out Greg's work, Husker Online video right here on YouTube. You can, bam, right in the search bar, get your fill of Husker football and basketball right there. All right, Greg.
We don't want to bring up basketball right now.
Well, I had to. It's over there, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
it's
no,
there.
We do thank everybody for the support, though. That is for sure. So, yeah, always a pleasure to spend an hour on our Tuesdays with everybody, and can't wait for next week.
We'll all be back here next Tuesday at 6 East Central Time, 6 Central. See you then.